Why, hello. It's that time again. Time for another Halo the Series episode review. Now, before I go any further, obviously, I should let you guys know that there are going to be spoilers for those who care. So, spoiler warning if you haven't watched the latest episode yet. So, I'm just going to get this out of the way. This was actually a good episode. I actually really enjoyed it, which is crazy because so far the first three episodes of this season have been total letdown. So to finally get a good episode feels great. All right, so I guess we'll start off. The episode begins right as the previous episode left off, and the explosion is actually from the Covenant, which is great. I was fearing that it was going to be another UNSC rug pull, like episode 3 was, but thankfully, it's finally happening. The conflict on Reach is being shown. And basically, we see the chief going through the streets with the lieutenant that he went to go see in the church. We get to see a few action scenes there of them facing down an elite that for some reason has no plasma, weaponry except for not even its sword, which is very odd. And there's only one elite by itself, which I have to go into my first criticism about this episode. Even though I do like this episode, I do have some critiques, and that is, where are the rest of the Covenant races? We see mostly elites in this episode, which doesn't make any sense because that's not how that Covenant operate. Yeah, there are elites on the front lines, but they're usually leading grunts and jackals as well. But we barely even see any of the jackals and none of the grunts or brutes or any of the other Covenant races. And also, for some reason, all the elites are the stealth elites, except when the writers forget about their invisibility, because all of them seem to have the energy swords, except for certain scenes where they're actually using their plasma rifles. But it's a weird choice. I don't know why they went with that, but I guess it's a callback to the first action scene in episode 1 of season 2. So maybe I don't know. It's a weird choice to me. I personally don't like it because it makes no sense why the Covenant would just send all their elites with energy swords on the front lines. Again, making little to no sense. But besides my criticism of the odd battle tactics of the Covenant in this episode, it's pretty good. The action scenes are pretty good. We get a quick jump to Halsey and Soren, and I was personally afraid that we were going to get like episode 3 where all the important stuff was to the sideline for the side characters, but no, it's a quick scene that I actually liked. They gave Soren some good lines here. I just wish they were handling his story better outside of this episode, but it seems like they are actually improving. And again, my main critique of Soren in this whole series I finally realized my main problem is they're trying to make him a sort of MCU hero type character. But at the very least in this episode, the classic quips that you would see in like almost every MCU movie, he only really makes about 2 jokes, maybe 3, but like they really rein in that kind of humor that you would expect from what they're trying to do with his character, which is great. But yeah, he has a good scene with Halsey before they escape their containment. They see Cortana being taken by Maki, who is somehow still alive. Again, it makes no sense, but whatever. So Cortana's taken. They're running from the Covenant. Then we jump back to Chief meeting up with the rest of Silver Team. They're fighting through the streets of Reach City, I believe they're calling it, instead of New Alexandria for some reason. I don't know why, but whatever. They are joined by Riz's blind friend, who was an ex-Spartan, and his boyfriend, who I'm glad they actually explained why he was coming with, because he follows them because he says, he can help them, help the wounded, and they did show previously that he does have medical knowledge, so it wasn't just some throwaway thing. So I'm glad that was sort of a consistent and a good reason for him to actually follow these guys. And through the fighting, he dies, killed by one of the elites, and then I believe his name is Louis, Riz's blind friend. Yeah, he's blind, shooting a grenade launcher, which, whatever, he can do it because of his Spartan training. But anyway, he sacrifices himself after learning his boyfriend is dead in a actually pretty good scene. Like, I'm glad they're actually showing these characters that they built up, regardless if how much they built them up. At least they are, dying, which I know is kind of dark to say, but like, it's the fall of Reach. Important characters have to die, even if they only had a few episodes of build up. And I'm glad they're actually going out in a way that makes sense. Now, eventually, Silver Team with the Lieutenant make it back to Fleet Com. They join up with the rest of the forces. The Lieutenant and Chief do a sort of a heartfelt farewell. Chief is really reserved in the scene, which is good. It's on character that he's so reserved. But he does give her his lucky coin that he got from Halsey when he was a kid. And then we learn something I do not like. Apparently, all the armor is gone. Now, story-wise, I know why it's not there. Ackerson, along with possibly Kai, when they left Reach, they took the armor. Now, I can't confirm if Kai is with Ackerson, but I'm assuming something stupid like that. But they took the armor, or it's at least implied that they took the armor when they left Reach. Basically saying screw you to all the Spartans that were still on Reach. And honestly, I hate this decision. I want to see Spartans in their armor fighting the forces of the Covenant on Reach, but for some reason they won't give it to us. It's extremely irritating, but whatever. But then after learning that they don't have access to their armor, Keyes gives everyone hold the line type speech that's actually, I think, pretty good. Could have been better written, possibly, probably, yeah, but it is still pretty good in my opinion. It could have been better, but because I've heard better speeches like that in other media, but that's just me. But still pretty good. Then as everyone is, getting in position, Keyes stumbles upon Halsey and Soren. There's a few jokes there, but like nothing crazy. Like, it doesn't ruin the overall vibe, which is what I was afraid was gonna happen. Like the jokes are well timed, where it kind of gives you a little brevity after all the like carnage you see in this episode, but they're not so many. There's not too many jokes where it just ruins the whole thematic thing going on in this episode, if that makes any sense. So then we get the final stand. Silver Team is on the ground with a main group of Marines holding off a bunch of elites, while Keyes and the Lieutenant and Halsey and Soren are in a hangar. The Lieutenant and Keyes are helping civilians get into a ship to escape. Soren is kind of doing his own thing, but then Jackals show up in the hangar, start messing things up. The Chief and the Silver Team go up to help the civilians who are under attack by the Jackals. Soren has help defending the civilians, but is a losing battle. And then Keyes notices that the fuel line is still attached, so he goes out to unhook it. And then we get Honestly, I don't like what they did because in the grand scheme of things, it just leaves a lot of things up in the air. So what happens is Keys unhooks the fuel line but he doesn't turn off the fuel, so gas is filling up the air around him. Jackals are surrounding him. Soren, Halsey, and Silver Team are getting out of the hangar. He tells the lieutenant to take off with the civilians in the ship, and obviously the burst from engines from the ship along with the gas, you get what is going. Keys basically sacrificed himself, killing himself to get the civilians out safely, which, yeah, heroic death, but it takes away potential storytelling for the next, I'm assuming the next season with when they're actually on Halo, because for those who don't know, in the first game on Halo, Combat Evolved, Keys dies because of the Flood, which are a zombie life form thing that I won't get too much into, but he is taken by the Flood, absorbed, and Chief puts him out of his misery. It's and I don't know why they decided to take this route with his death in the series. I feel like it's really disappointing because now we're not going to have Keys on Halo unless they somehow get Miranda involved in season 3, which they kept her out of season 2. I don't know why. Seems like they just sort of uh, off screen did something with her. I don't know, and honestly, I kind of don't care. But yeah, I feel like Keys' death kind of, I don't know. I don't like it. I straight up don't like it. But then we get another fight scene where Mako reveals herself to Chief that she's still alive. And during the fight, an elite takes a needler and kills Varric or one of the silver team member that with the confusing name. Um, the elite stabs him with a needler shard and it blows up, killing him. Maki and the elite, who I think is supposed to be the arbiter or the general leading the invasion of Reach, leave, and we're left with a wounded Master Chief because he got shot by a jackal, and then or another elite, and then yeah, Varric dies, or Varric, whatever. He dies from a needler blowing up in his chest. We see his body, and this is my last critique. Like, we're seeing lots of fighting between the Covenant and the UNSC in this episode, but for some reason, a lot of the punch or gore that we saw in season 1 is missing. Like, when I go back and watch the first episode of season 1, and you see the Covenant killing the people in episode 1 with their weapons, it's brutal, it's violent, but for some reason they toned it down when this is the perfect opportunity to show how devastating their weaponry is, but we're not seeing it, and it's really weird in my personal opinion. But honestly, I only have very few critiques of this episode. It was actually a pretty solid episode that I liked. Hopefully they keep this momentum going, because if they keep this going, I feel like the season 2 will end on a if they keep this going, season 2 will end on a high note and could actually make me excited for season 3. But we'll just have to wait and see how this season ends. So until next time, see you guys later.